here at SunGard, and I'm talking with Martin Boyd, and we're going to be talking about fund managers today. So, what are some of the new investment products entering the market, and what are some of the challenges that they're really raising for fund managers?
I think our view is it's not so much the creation of new products that's causing fund managers a problem, but rather the volume of some of the products which previously had kind of been less well traded, which is starting to drive certain complexity in the operations of investment managers, in particular around risk management and operational throughput. And good examples of those would be, increasingly the use of OTC and the rise of ETFs and synthetic ETFs in the market, which is meaning that those organizations where they may have already been struggling to process business volume are having to put in place solutions and capability to better manage the volumes that they've got in a more efficient way.
How are we seeing regulations being debated in different parts of the globe and its effect on the asset management industry?
Clearly, whilst regulation is still only sort of being baked at the moment, there's a lot of talk around how the regulation is going to be shaped and how it's going to appear. Even though that it's not fully baked yet, it is starting to have a real impact, and it's having a real impact because it makes those organisations much more likely to want to view how they're making investment decisions, the process by which they're making those decisions, and the compliance processes they've got around them, much more robust. And I think what we're seeing is, if you look at pension funds, which certainly from a European perspective are going to be the big source of new funds under management, when they're going out and looking for diversification, they're going to be asking those fund managers particularly about what capability they've got in place, how robust are their systems. And what we're seeing is that's driving those institutions to use outsourced services much more significantly than they would have done in the past.
Mm-hmm. How about sort of the convergence between traditional and alternative funds? Are we seeing that having an impact on the industry at all?
Yes, and so what you're seeing is the traditional asset managers looking to generate better returns from a market standpoint are starting to use OTC products much more than they used to. Traditionally, OTC was much more the domain of a hedge fund, leveraging highly against that and driving it. As you've seen credit lines dry up from prime brokers towards hedge funds, or not dry up, but cease to give major credit without collateral being posted, you also see hedge funds being more cautious about the proportion of or the mix of investments they're making, be it long-short equities or more complex derivatives. And you're starting to see a shift in that mix. So over time, I think what you'll see is as a community, we'll see a large number of specialized funds delivering real alpha for their customers, which might be pension funds or others. And that diversification will mean a blurring of the boundaries, between hedge fund and traditional asset management. And then, of course, you'll have the global tier one players who want to be in every part of those spaces, including being able to generate great returns, that the hedge funds are able to do.
Are we seeing an end of sort of hedge funds being boutiques and becoming more mainstream?
Yeah, it's interesting. You definitely see that with some hedge funds. They clearly are, either a long only or short only or long short strategy, and so therefore, they're not so different from a very active managed fund. But where the source of their funds comes from and the risk appetite of the source of those funds, that tends to be the differentiator in terms of how the market will fragment. Whether we'll call them hedge funds, whether we'll call it traditional asset managers, who knows? It's kind of probably doesn't matter, but ultimately there is a convergence there, and I think we'll see more of that.